Hey everyone, and welcome back. So recently on the channel, you would have noticed that I've been doing a lot of content around interviews and videos of successful investors such as Ray Dalio, Michael Burry, and Warren Buffett, and exploring particularly their opinion on the market in its current state. And as you've seen, a lot of people, a lot of successful investors right now believe that all stocks, or at least some portion of stocks, some sector of the stock market is in bubble territory. And with all of this talk about overvalued stocks and bubbles and potential crashes, I've noticed that in the comment section, a similar comment has been posted by a growing number of people. And typically I have just dismissed those comments, but I more recently have been thinking that it's probably a good idea to answer some of the questions that have been coming up in the comments section and to clear the air on what my opinion is on the markets, and particularly how I'm approaching the markets when I'm talking about or exploring these ideas that the market may be generally overvalued. So today I'm going to go through one question, which was quite a long question, so I can kind of dive into it from a couple of different angles. And then I'm going to talk about how I'm approaching the markets in 2021 and really over my lifetime, and why it makes sense to do that for your portfolio too. So if you do get some value out of today's video, I would very much appreciate it if you take the 2 seconds to leave a like on the video. And if you want to stay up to date with content that I post in the future, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it so you get notified when I post. But with that said, let's jump into the video. Now, I've blurred this person's name out because I am in no way targeting this person specifically. This was just a good example of a comment that I've seen over and over again by a number of different people, and I kind of wanted to break it down and give my opinion on it. So this comment starts by saying, "You've been shouting the same thing since almost 3 to 4 months." Well, first of all, 3 to 4 months in the finance world is nothing. It's like a millisecond in the world of finance. So if, for example, the 2020 crash that happened in March erased 3 entire years worth of gains. The global financial crisis erased 12 years of gains on the S&P 500. So 3 to 4 months is literally nothing. If Ray Dalio, for example, who I've spoken about a lot recently, is talking about the market being overvalued, and he believes that returns in the stock market will be weak over the next decade, for example, if stocks continue to go up a lot higher for the next 3 to 4 months, that literally means nothing. Secondly, the reason why I've made a lot of content over the past, let's say 3 or 4 months that talk about the market being overheated is because over the past 3 or 4 months, the market conditions haven't changed all that much. They've kind of remained very, very heightened. In fact, you can make the argument that over the past 3 or 4 months, the market has moved further into bubble territory. PE multiples have expanded. You have inflation concerns that are rising. 3.7% inflation year to date in the United States compared to 2% that was expected. And the Federal Reserve is expecting to taper. You have stimulus that's going to be rolling off towards the end of this year and next year. So there's a lot of factors right now where you could point to the market and say that prices have continued to rise while the fundamentals of those businesses have not. The comment goes on to say, "If you know exactly, then tell me when this bubble will burst." I don't know, nor have I ever claimed to know when a stock market bubble is going to pop, or even to what magnitude, that it's going to be a 20% drop or a 30% drop, or even that it will drop at all. And if anybody is telling you that they know when the stock market is going to collapse, or what percentage it's going to drop, or how quickly it's going to recover, or anything in relation to where the stock market will move in the short term, in a 1 or 2, maybe even a 5-year period, then don't listen to them because they have no idea what they're talking about. It's a completely different thing to talk about what the market is going to do in the future, making a prediction about what the market will do, and just talking generally about what market conditions look like. The reason why I've had a lot of fun going into Ray Dalio's interviews and understanding really the economic machine that he calls it, the long-term debt cycle, the short-term debt cycle, and what we should expect out of, say, the Federal Reserve or the government or bond markets, for example. The reason why I like talking about those conditions is because there are a lot of new investors who have entered the market over the last 12 months. And if you've entered the markets over the last 12 months and you didn't hear about Ray Dalio's perspective on market conditions, for example, you might look at the market and just see, well, this market just goes up in a straight line. Even when it drops, it recovers within a few months. And you may be misled to believe that it's easy to invest in the stock market when in most conditions, it's it's not. Over the past couple of years, it has been incredibly easy to invest in the stock market. If you had just picked a basket, or you could even go for an index fund, for example, and that's been super easy. But even if you were picking individual businesses, as long as you didn't stray into anything too speculative and you stuck to big brand name companies, there haven't been any serious bankruptcies as far as I can remember off the top of my head for big companies currently. And the stock market overall has kind of experienced this effect of a rising tide lifts all boats. So everything has kind of just been pushed along and it's been super easy to invest. But historically, conditions like that don't last very long, and usually they don't last as long as they have for the past few years. To just read the rest of this question, what I can see is markets going sideways after a marathon run for more than a year. It will remain sideways for a few months or a year unless there is shocking news like a war or another pandemic or a bankruptcy or whatever significant. Only after that can we see bull bear market. Right now, it's just a bunny market and will most likely remain so for another year. All I ask is, what is that prediction based on? Like, it's very easy just to say, this is what the market's going to do, or you don't know what the market's going to do. You've been wrong for 3 to 4 months, but I know what the market's going to do. Nobody knows what the market is going to do. Nobody. Not me. Not anybody else, at least in the short term. And it doesn't matter, right? If you're investing in really good businesses, the short term doesn't matter. And I'll give you a really good example of this. Texas Roadhouse, for example, was one of the businesses, it's a restaurant chain in the United States, was one of the businesses hit the hardest by the pandemic, particularly in the US, because it was one of few businesses that actually experienced restrictions, that people were prevented from going and sitting at full capacity in restaurants, and then at certain points at going and sitting in restaurants at all. But the reason why it didn't matter and why I wasn't concerned about my investment and how I was happy to push a lot of money into that investment is because the business is run by a really great management team. They have distinct competitive advantages. They've developed a significant brand moat around them. They were profitable even at limited capacity, so there was no risk that they were going to run out of money, and they have no debt that was due at all. They have no debt. So there was no risk for the business to be running at limited capacity for, let's say, another year or another 2 years or another 3 years. They could have just continued to operate, and yes, they wouldn't have made as much money as previous years, but they wouldn't have gone out of business. And then after the pandemic is over and people are going back out and people rush back out to restaurants, the businesses that have distinct advantages, that have that branding moat that attracts customers in, like Texas Roadhouse, will experience the most significant increases in their revenues and market share gains. And only by investing in businesses like that can you actually be confident in holding businesses and not needing to worry about trading the stock on a day-by-day basis. You can kind of just sit back and be a business owner, right? If you own a property and let's say you own a property and you have no mortgage on it, you don't care at all if the economy is doing poorly, right? Because that property, maybe it goes down in price, as in houses around it might sell for less during poor economic conditions, but you don't need to sell it. You can just know that you have a property and that over the long term, it's likely going to go up in price with demand. So what I wanted to do with the rest of this video is talk about what actually is my strategy, because I realized that my audience has grown dramatically over the past year. And if you just watched my videos from the past year, you might honestly believe that I'm just sitting 100% in cash and I'm just thinking that a crash is coming around the corner tomorrow. That's not my strategy at all. And if you haven't gone back and watched some of my older content or gone through my playlists on YouTube, then you probably have no idea what my strategy is. So that's exactly what we're going to do for the rest of this video. So the way I invest is with two distinct strategies. One of them is a passive strategy that is very easy for anybody to do. It's actually probably the preferable strategy for the vast majority of people. The other strategy is much more active, picking individual businesses, and I do a combination of both of them. I actually think that it makes sense, even if you're active investing, to have somewhat of a passive part of your portfolio, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But the vast majority of people will be going through the passive route, super easy. And then some people will want to pick individual businesses on top of the passive part of their portfolio. So for the passive part of your portfolio, the strategy is very, very simple. You're buying index funds, broad index funds that invest your money in a basket of really big businesses, either in the US or around the world. And your strategy really is just to consistently contribute to them. Now, you could invest specifically in stock market index funds. So you could go for something like an S&P 500 or a total US stock market fund or an ASX 300 fund. I have a little bit of both of those. Or you could go Ray Dalio's route and do the all-weather portfolio where you have some bonds, you have stocks, you have some commodities and some gold. I did a video on that. I'll try and find it and link it down in the description below if you're interested in checking that out. And all you need to do is calculate what your income is likely going to be for the remainder of the year. Pick a percentage upfront that you want to set aside each month to invest. And when that month comes around, set aside that money and invest it regardless of what the market is doing. Put it in your calendar and you don't let the market, what the market is doing, whether it's up, down, sideways, you don't let that influence your decision. You just want to always be investing broadly into the market. And that's it. It's very, very simple. And as I mentioned, I do a little bit of this. So about 10 to 15% of my stock portfolio is always going down this strategy. And then the remainder of the portfolio is a mix of cash and individual businesses that I have picked using my active investment strategy. So in this part of my portfolio, which as I said, reflects 85 to 90% of my portfolio, the aim is really to follow Warren Buffett's value investing principles as closely as possible, to find 5 to 10 really, really great businesses. And by great businesses, I mean ones that you deeply understand in areas you already understand. They're businesses that have distinct competitive advantages, something unique that makes them stand out amongst the other businesses in the industry. And it has a really highly competent and trustworthy management team. So you're looking for these businesses, a very small number of those businesses, and you want to calculate the future profits of that business so you can figure out what you're willing to pay for them. And the way that I go about that whole process is through Warren Buffett's key principles that he's spoken about over many, many decades of his life. I actually have a playlist on YouTube where I have about 15 videos in there going through each of the principles. So if you're interested in that, again, I'll leave it linked down in the description below. So essentially, you have a short list of really, really great businesses and the prices you're willing to pay. And depending on economic conditions or what's happening in the industry or with the specific business, some, all, or none of those businesses on your short list may be at an appropriate price. And that dictates the amount of investment activity that you're doing. So for example, in 2019, the economy was running hot. The tax cuts had just come through from the Trump administration and prices were really, really expensive. They're at all-time highs. And as a result, in my shortlist, my personal shortlist, during 2019, none of the businesses reached prices where I wanted to invest significantly. Come around to 2020, in March, of course, the markets went down over a 3-week period, about 35%. And some of the businesses on my shortlist went down even further than that, 60, 70%. And during that period, 4 of about 10 to 15 businesses that I have on my watch list, just 4 of them, but 4 was enough, got to an appropriate price and I invested significantly into those businesses. And if you've watched any of my investment portfolio videos, you know what those businesses are. They've been the same businesses I've been investing in for many years now. So what about right now? What am I seeing in my portfolio right now? Well, as you saw with the US stock market, prices pretty much bounced back from that 35% drop all the way back up to break even, all-time highs within a few months. And now over a year later, the markets are still 20 to 25%, I think, higher than pre-pandemic levels, even though earnings are, for a lot of companies, at a similar level or maybe even just a little bit higher. And what that has meant for my watch list is that once again, there are 0 businesses on my short list, on my watch list, that are at prices where I would be happy to invest significantly. Now, that doesn't mean that I sell all of my stocks and sit in cash and put it under my mattress or something like that. It just means that I'm investing no money significantly into businesses at the moment. If I'm investing anything, it's going to be small amounts. And that means that my cash pile is building up slowly over time. And I'm happy to wait until market conditions change or a problem happens in a particular industry or a business goes through some kind of problem where one or more businesses on my shortlist will become a price that is appropriate for me to be confident that I'm going to make a significant return in the future. And I need to be clear here, this is not timing the market. A lot of people confuse this strategy with timing the market. Timing the market is trying to get in and out of the market based on market fluctuations. That is not what I'm doing at all. It just so happens that when the market comes down significantly, like in March of 2020, it's also likely that some businesses are going to be, more businesses are going to be at a better price relative to their future cash flows. I'm assessing businesses based on cash flow. When I bought businesses in March of 2020, it wasn't because I thought that was the bottom of the market crash. It was simply because the relationship between the price of the business and the profits of the business made sense at that point. The market could have gone down another 30, 40%, and I would have had no idea that that was coming. And if that happened, then I would have happily put even more money into the market at cheaper prices. And the other thing that I do want to mention is you really need to think about investing in businesses in the same way that most people think about investing in property. This isn't just some whim decision that you make on a Robinhood in an afternoon after reading one news article about this new hot business. You should think about it like you're taking out a $500,000 mortgage and you need to be correct about this property. You can't buy something that has a bad roof or has a hot water system that needs to be replaced for $5,000, $10,000. Think about it like you would think about buying a property. It's probably going to take you, 6 to 8 months to buy a property. If you're being very, very selective, you're going to go to a lot of open houses, try and get different mortgage rates. You're going to talk to different agents. You're going to spend tens of hours of research to make sure you're making a good investment decision. The same thing applies for businesses, maybe even to a further extent for businesses, because in most cases, businesses are more complicated to understand than a property. Most of the investments that I've made in the stock market have been after I started looking at them for 6 to 12, maybe even more months. I'm not rushing these decisions. I'm in no rush. I have many decades of investment ahead of me. Most people have at least 2 decades of investment ahead of them. So there's no rush. You don't need to rush out and build a portfolio of 50 stocks like a lot of people think they need to do. Take your time, and in the meantime, while you're learning about investment, just passively invest. Just invest broadly into the market. You can't go wrong with that strategy. And that's kind of a quick overview of my strategy. But as I said, if you want to see that in more detail, then make sure you check out that 4-step stock analysis playlist on YouTube. It has about 15 videos in there where I go through each step of the analysis process. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. A little bit different from the typical content that I've been posting recently around interviews of great investors. There'll be a lot of content for me to cover over the next few weeks in terms of earnings, 13F filings, and probably some more investor interviews. So if you do want to stick around for all of that, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when new content is coming out. But with that said, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.